So, this is a church, and it's a church that is comfortable with gay people, bisexual people, transgender. We're comfortable with the spectrum of gender and sexuality. But in a lot of religions, unfortunately, that is not the case. So you may have heard in Catholic Christianity, pride is one of the 7 deadly sins. In fact, it's considered the worst. It's considered the root of all the other sins. And what they mean when they talk about pride is hubris, this false overconfidence. We can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Yes. So it's this over love of self where you just think you can do no wrong and you're amazing and aren't you great and everyone should just do what you want all the time. You know, that kind of pride I can understand people having an issue with. The author C.S. Lewis called pride the anti-God state, in which ego is opposed or considered above God. When the individual thinks them and themselves and what they want is more important than the whole, than the connectedness, than the ecosystem. And that's a lot of what we see these days. People putting themselves and their own wants over the well-being of the whole, of the community. So that kind of hubris, that kind of pride, we see all the time, such as when a leader tweets over 2,000 times, calling himself terrific, tremendous, so great looking and so smart, a true stable genius, end quote. That I would call pride, like a problematic kind of pride. But the 7 deadly sins are not from the Bible. They're part of Catholic Christianity, but they're not in the Bible. They were created by this guy named Tertullian. I don't even know. It sounds gay to me. Tertullian. Like, nobody tell the Catholics I said that, though. But what is in the Bible, and of course we know there's 2 parts of the Bible. In the Jewish tradition, there is their sacred text is called the Torah, or the Hebrew Bible. Christians call it the Old Testament, which is a little rude, but it is its own book. And in the Hebrew Bible, there is a story about, you may have heard the story of David and Goliath. Does anybody know that story, right? Where the little guy with a slingshot and no armor defeats this huge giant. It's this underdog tale. Well, the very next chapter of that story is David and Jonathan. Jonathan is the prince of the state, the town, the city-state. There weren't countries at that point, but he's the prince, and he and his father Saul, the king, are congratulating David on defeating this giant. And Jonathan, I'll just read it straight. Okay, so this is an excerpt from 1 Samuel 18 through 20 in the Hebrew Bible. After David defeats Goliath, okay, here's the quote from the Bible. When David finished speaking with King Saul, Prince Jonathan's soul became bound up with the soul of David. Jonathan loved David as himself. Jonathan and David then made a covenant because Jonathan loved him as himself. Jonathan took off the cloak and tunic he was wearing and gave them to David, together with his sword, bow, and belt. Saul grew, and this is a little later in the chapter, but it's still quoting. Saul grew still more afraid of David, and Saul was David's enemy ever after. King Saul urged his son Jonathan to kill David, but Saul's son Jonathan was very fond of David. Jonathan, out of his love for David, swore to him again, for he loved him as himself. He flung himself face down on the ground and bowed low 3 times. They kissed each other and wept together. Jonathan said to David, "Go in peace, for we too have sworn to each other in the name of the Lord. May the Lord be witness between you and me." End quote. But of course, they were just friends.
Just roommates.
Just roommates, just friends. Nothing. That's what I do, is I take off all my clothes for my friends. That's what I do. That's a normal thing to do. Yep. Totally normal. I smooch them and I promise to them to love them forever. Yep. I mean, this is so romantic. It's very Romeo and Juliet. The king hates David, but the prince loves him. And so instead of killing him as he's been ordered, he warns him and he lets him get away. It's so romantic. The dueling families, the secret vows. And in fact, it has been adapted to the stage. A classmate of mine from Harvard Divinity School named Jay Sylvan, Reverend Jay Sylvan, a UU minister, created Beloved King, a faithfully adapted queer Bible musical about David and Jonathan. Is very sexy. And the full soundtrack is available to stream. Not sponsored, just a very good soundtrack. Here's a clip.
I've never seen anyone take up and wield a stone that then took down a giant, standing near naked without a shield. It's so absolutely defiant. Here, take my cloak. You have to be cold. Have you borne the blade of a man? I'd be glad, honored, that is, if you'd hold my armor and sword in your hand. Here's my bow. Here's my tent. Come with me, Adonai. I cannot say no to you. You are my Lord. Whatever you wish, I will do. If you don't want to, that's not what I said. I leave the decision to you.
Just a little taster there. So that's from, they did sort of a reading, so they're not in their costumes, but that was, and Adonai means my Lord. And so it's this really sweet little, like, will they, won't they sort of moment. It's a really good show, y'all. And I'm not just saying that because I edited the Wikipedia page for it. So obviously, the Hebrew Bible is gay. J-Core, the Jewish community of Oak Ridge, is coming here today, and I'm sure they would agree with me. But what about the New Testament? Well, here's what Jesus has to say about homosexuality. Nothing. He says, not a word about homosexuality. You know what he does say? Love thy neighbor, period. He, in his context as a Jewish preacher, he's in his worldview, he's aware of the 10 Commandments, and he adds 2 more. He emphasizes to love God in his religion and to love thy neighbor. He says those are the 2 most important things. Love the source of your existence and love each other, period. So all the stuff we hear from those who call themselves Christian or religious in whatever way, who've allowed power to overcome love in their faith, is not from Jesus. He didn't say anything like that. All the other stuff about deadly sins came way after he was dead, after he was killed by the empire for preaching peace and against the power of money. That was who Jesus was. Way cool. The kind of pride that the celebration of capital P, LGBT pride lifts up, it's not about exaggeration or vanity or hubris. It's about worthiness. The kind of pride of comfort and understanding that you have inherent dignity and worthiness. The word pride started being used a few years before the Stonewall Uprising in New York City. It was actually borrowed from the Black Power movement that advocated for Black pride, the celebration of African heritage and culture. And so the LGBTQ movement said, hey, that's a great idea to just love each other and support each other and say out loud, we have the right to be here as we are. Being proud of your accomplishments and getting a sense of worthiness from external sources, that's hubris, right? Oh, I've won an award. Oh, my dad said he was proud of me. Oh, somebody expects this of me and I'm going to do it that way. Or my boss said something or didn't say something. Those are external sources of validation. But internal validation, that spiritually rooted sense of, the example here is, I love that what I'm wearing reflects me. I feel ready to give my best. I express myself authentically. I know I did a great job, and I don't need anyone to tell me that. That kind of settled, rooted, a sense of pride that doesn't need to prove itself, that doesn't need to crow about how great you are, but that you are no more or less worthy than anyone else. Period. You have a sense of inherent worthiness. I encourage you to have that sense just because of your innate and unique qualities, just for existing. How amazing is it that each of us exists at all? That is worthy of a little excitement, a little pride. And especially for those of us from marginalized backgrounds, the fact that we've made it as far as we have in a world telling us that we don't fit, that we don't belong, that we shouldn't be proud. But in the Unitarian Universalist understanding, although none of us are entitled to someone else's romantic love, we are entitled to capital L love, the power that holds us together. We are inherently connected to everything that is. We are connected to the universe or to the divine just because we exist. So when we talk about love, we mean deep connectedness and concern. Concern with how the environment is doing because it affects us, and the environment in some way is concerned with how I'm doing because I too am part of the ecosystem. We are part of the ecosystem. To love and take pride in the variety, the beauty, the rainbow of life on this planet is not a sin, it's a virtue. I have a friend who is a butch lesbian, and she says, yes, we're born this way, but I choose to look this gay. It would be easier and safer not to, but it reflects who I am and whatever it is that made me. That is LGBTQ pride. To dress the way that makes you feel happy and comfortable. To love who you feel attraction and romance for, not because of anybody else's rules, as long as you are consenting adults. Being proud of who you are is really about being proud and being in awe of the nature of our universe. What an amazing variety of ways to be alive, ways to love each other. Being proud of looking how you look, of being how you are, of accepting imperfection, and also knowing that some things about us can change if you want to. If you want to improve things about yourself and you do so, that also deserves some pride. But no matter what, to understand that you have the right to be here as you are, and that the universe loves you. It created you. You're connected to it no matter what, and no one can take it away from you. To be proud in a world that is telling you to be ashamed is a virtue. It is a statement of faith. In awe, you can give praise and be proud of the brilliance of creation, the cleverness of the divine, the splendidness of existence. So, with that in mind, I invite you all today and every day to celebrate Pride. May it be so, and amen. Thank you.